Welcome to It's Not About the Hair online series. My name is Valerie Fuentes. I'm your host, and today I am with Lacie Rodriguez. She's joining us from Utah. And Lacie, I was just sharing with you how much I'm loving your page. I am totally a makeup enthusiast. I love makeup. So I'm on your page for the makeup. I gotta be honest. That's why I'm there. So thank you so much for everything you've been sharing, and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about hair and all of this, so this is my bread and butter.
Yeah, of course. So let's get to know you a little bit more. Tell us about your hair loss story, because I do know that, yes, you're all about the makeup, but there's also hair loss and toppers. You're on that life. So what happened?
Okay, so I've always had thin hair. I never had really amazing thick hair. But by the time I got into college is when it really started to fall out and it wasn't coming back in, and I was stressing. So I just, especially when you're that young, it was a really hard time in my life anyway.
Yeah.
And it really, really took a toll on my mental health and just the whole transition of adulthood.
Yeah.
But I just kind of worked my way through that and tried, different like root concealers, hair powders and stuff like that, which kind of got me into my childbearing years. So every time I had a kid, I have 3 kids. Every time I've had one, I've lost more hair with every, postpartum hair loss.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it comes back, but not all of it. So it's just gradually gotten thinner since then. So I'd say it's been at least 15 years probably that I've been really dealing with hair loss.
Wow. And I totally relate to that because my biggest shed was in college. And how I dealt with it was with a beanie. I wore a beanie every single day. But it was a very lonely place. I totally get that. Like, I think that those were my darkest years, was being in college with the biggest shed. I was away, right? So I was like physically alone, right? Like my parents were not around. I was in a new city, tiny little town in Washington State. And it was really hard to, actually I started losing my hair when I was 18, but that early 20s was really rough. So how did you deal with it emotionally?
I didn't very well, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah.
I cried so much about it. And what was the hardest thing for me was that I didn't have anybody that could relate to me. Like, nobody got it.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, it's just hair, get over it. Your hair's still cute. You know how to make it look cute anyway. And, it could be so much worse. And all of those things that I know people say and they mean well, but in reality, it's so shaming.
Yeah.
It just made me feel so guilty for having this insecurity that for most people is no big deal, but it was a big deal to me. So I didn't really deal with it very well. I went through a really dark depression, which wasn't just about hair loss. It was a combination of things, but that had a huge part in it. And it kept me from dating. It kept me from like going out and living a normal college life. I just was such a hermit. And I'm actually a pretty outgoing person, and I love to be with people and I love to chat and have friends. And I just didn't do a lot of that in college. I'm really sad looking back that I didn't really enjoy that college experience. And a lot of it had to do with how I felt about my hair. I was just always on my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny you said that, because I was just having a conversation with someone, and that was the one thing I told her. I said, I wouldn't change anything of my hairless journey, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, feeling more confident than ever. Right? Like, I don't want to change any of it. And I do wish for a different college experience, because college is never going to happen again. Right. And that's exactly the reason why I do what I do, because back then I had nobody. And then when I do found people, the support group, but they were very negative. They were draining and overwhelming. If I will go into support group, Facebook and things like that, boards they were called back in the day. Yeah. They will just bring me down. Like, I will go in for support and I will walk out thinking, oh my gosh, this is like the worst thing that happened to me. Right. Because all I could hear is like women not having solutions and feeling really terrible. And, you know, all their insecurities were right there in front of me. And here I am, 2 years old, being like, is this going to be my life? Oh my gosh. Right. So not fun. So
No.
how did you overcome that? Like, because I mean, I would love to know, how did you overcome that?
Well, I mean, my whole depression, anxiety journey is a whole other topic, but you know, I went to some therapy. I learned some better coping skills. I actually served a religious mission, which helped me more than probably anything. It got me like away from home and meeting new people, whole different environment. I went to Texas. I'd never been anywhere. I learned Spanish. I met some incredible people. I started finding my worth in other things, you know, instead of just in my hair and my appearance. As a missionary, it's funny because as a missionary, you're like, you don't have any time to spend on yourself. So I was in Texas. I come from Utah where it's super dry. And so I go to Texas, Houston, where it was super humid. I had never dealt with humidity before. And my hair was just like flat and stringy and awful. And I just kind of, at that point, it was like, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't even have time to worry about it. So I think that was the first time that I stopped really thinking a whole lot about my hair. It looked horrible, but it wasn't my focus. I was focused on other things. And I think that kind of helped me see, like, you can live your life with hair loss and it's okay. You know, it's not like I was happy about it,
Right.
but it just wasn't my focus. And, you know, I met new people and I just kind of started feeling better about myself in lots of areas. And then when I got married, when I found my husband and we started dating, and he's been the most incredible thing because he really does just accept me for who I am. Thank the Lord above. I was so worried I would never find someone that, you know, like, you know how guys, I don't think girls talk about this, but I feel like guys talk about, you got to make sure you see them like first thing in the morning before they have their hair and their makeup on. Before you really commit, because I think that's so crappy. I was so worried about that. And my husband's like, I'm not marrying you for your hair. I don't care what your hair looks like. So maybe deep down he would care, but he's been very, very supportive. So that helped a lot, having a really good support system.
So was that ever a conversation? Like, did you at some point open up about your insecurity?
Oh yeah, he knew. I mean, I complained about my hair a lot.
Okay.
And he would listen to me complain and he would just kind of like laugh along with me. Or if I was crying, you know, he'd let me cry to him about it. And he would try to gently be like, you know, I love you just the way you are. I'm like, I know you do, but I don't.
Yeah.
So he just really held me through the whole ups and downs of all of it, because it's really what it was. It was like, sometimes I'd be like, you know what? Life is too short to be so stressed about my hair. And then other times I'd be like, but it's such a huge part of me. And I want what other people have. And why can't I have that? Like, that was the biggest thing for me. Was it's not something at the time anyway, before I knew about hair toppers and alternative hair, I just felt like so powerless. Like there was just nothing I could do about it. Nothing.
Yeah.
When the doctor told me it's not growing back, like, you know, I didn't do a biopsy, but by ruling out every other cause, he was like, it's female pattern baldness. It's androgenic alopecia. It's genetic and it's not growing back. Like there's no science that's going to make that grow back. And it was devastating, but you know, like, what are you going to do about it? And thank goodness I found toppers, or I would still be pretty sad about it, I think.
Yeah. So at what point did you get an actual diagnosis?
It was probably, I think it was after my first child.
Okay.
I actually had a horrible experience at the hair club. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that or.
Yep.
Horrible experience there. That was probably rock bottom for me when it came to hair loss. And that's when I went to the doctor and they tried to sell me an expensive shampoo and he was like, it's not going to grow back. That was rock bottom. So that's when I really started being like, there's got to be something I can put on my head that's going to help what it looks like, even if it won't grow it back, you know?
And so where are you at right now? Like, are you at peace with it? Are you still trying things? Are you just doing toppers? Like, where are you at when it comes to regrowing your hair and, you know, seeking for alternatives, I guess?
Yeah, I'm at peace with it. I mean, I know my hair's just gradually getting thinner and having toppers has helped me make peace with it. Knowing that like whatever's going on under my topper is okay. I honestly, most of the time, I don't even think about it. Every once in a while, I'll get like a shot of myself in the mirror with no topper on. Like the other day, I tried to part my hair down the middle for something, and I was like, because usually when it's parted to the side, it kind of covers up this really thinning area. So I parted it down the middle, and I was like, whoa, is it really that thin? So every once in a while, I'll have a moment where I'll be like, oh, this sucks. I'm like 35. Why do I not have hair? You know, and I always am reminded that it could be worse. And I always remind other people that say that even though I know it could be worse, it doesn't make it hurt less. So I feel like everyone's justified in feeling sad about their hair loss, no matter how much or how little it is. But so yeah, I'm at peace with it. I don't search out alternative like things to get my hair to grow back. I'm at peace that it's not growing back.
Okay.
I'm just trying now to focus on taking care of what I have left and finding, pieces that will help enhance what I still have. And I know eventually I'm going to move on to wigs, but right now I'm really loving toppers. I feel like I can still really look like me. It feels more like me because I still have some of my hair still hanging on for dear life. So right now I'm really happy with toppers, but I know that eventually I'll move on to wigs and I'll probably shave my head at some point. And I'm not scared of that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I mean, clearly I already transitioned to wigs, but only for a short period of time while weather permits. But I totally get that. So I used to wear a hair system like that was semi-permanent for like 5 years, and I transitioned to wigs and toppers about a year ago. At the beginning, it was just toppers, and now that the weather is a little better, I'm trying wigs. But I live in Miami, and I know it's not going to last long. And yeah, so I'll enjoy while I can, and then they'll get put away. But I totally feel you, and I wanted to ask you specifically about the whole postpartum shed, because I know that's a big fear that it's definitely in our community. I get questions about that a lot. So how did you deal with that? Because I feel like our bodies as women go through so many changes just by being pregnant, right? And then adapting to that and having to deal with hair loss on top of it. I bet that's a lot. So how did you cope with it? How did you deal with it? What helped you? Because I know that's a concern for a lot of people.
Yeah. The first shed I had after my first son, my mom was the one who pointed it out. She was like, your hair is so thin. I was like, thanks for pointing that out. Because you're right. It is such a vulnerable place. Like your body has you feel like you've been run over by a truck. You felt that way for 9 months, and then you have the baby, and it's so much at one time, and then you add hair loss on top of that, and it's like sometimes it just felt like my breaking point, when I would be showering and I would run my hands through my hair and I would just have like clumps of hair, and I would wipe it on the shower wall because you don't want to clog up the drain. And it's just the saddest thing, and it's a really hard time to lose hair. And that's when I went to the hair club. That's when I said I really hit rock bottom. But after I had my daughter, I went through a serious postpartum depression. And so I think my shed after her was even worse. And I'm sure it was exacerbated because of the depression. Our hormones are just like psychotic during that time. And that's how I felt, was psychotic. So that was the worst shed I think I've ever had. And I don't really have a lot of advice of how to deal with it, other than I really relied on my family and my support system, and I had to be straight up honest with them about how I was feeling. The more I kept it inside, the worse it was. Like sometimes I would feel like I was so crazy or being such a baby, I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't be vocal about it. And that just made it worse, because then I was shaming myself internally all the time. And so I just think talking about it finally helped. Eventually I went to the doctor. I finally got on some medication. I went to therapy. All those things helped with just the postpartum depression in general. But the hair part just kind of slowly, again, like the shed, the worst shed, it was after my daughter, but then she was a few years old by the time I found the topper. And that's when I really started accepting it and feeling better about it. And honestly, that's when my depression and anxiety kind of got under control was after I found that. Ever since then, I'm not saying that that's the cause of my mental health issues or anything, but I know that they played into that. And so since I've really done better at accepting it and all the things, then I would say that this last shed after my last baby, she's almost 2. So that shed, it was pretty bad, but I've dealt with it better. I'll just say that. I knew what to expect. You know, when you kind of know what to expect, I think it helps to deal with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't have any children yet, but I've with all, you know, my clients and the interviews that I've done, everything, I do see that as a common thread. So I'm not calling, oh, that's what's going to happen to me, because I've also, by the way, I've interviewed somebody that she said that she had her best hair of her life when she was pregnant.
That, yes.
Yeah. So know that that's also a possibility, right? So I just, for all the women that are considering having children and have concerns about it, I would say, like, don't get hung up on other people's stories, because all of our bodies are different. And when it comes to alopecia, it's even worse.
Exactly.
It looks different on everybody, right? Like, there is no, like, okay, this is, and you're going to lose this percentage of your hair in 2 months, and then in 5 months, and then there's no calling this out, and it's cyclical and it changes, and there's so many factors that, you know, affect the results. So don't get hung up on that, but do learn from other people, right? And that's why, you know, I also do this, is for, so everybody, like you said, learns and like knows what's coming.
Yeah.
So you're prepared. And I am preparing myself, to be honest with you, because I do I think that's when I'm going to shave my head.
Yeah.
I think that's when, also because I think about a child like pulling my hair, even if it's just a wig, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, no,
yeah,
that's when the hair gets to go.
Just get rid of it. One less thing.
Yeah, let's get to go right now. Okay, cool. So about the toppers, how did you introduce the toppers to your husband, to your children, right? Because it's funny, when we start wearing hair, it's not only about us, but it's about introducing the hair to others.
Yeah.
So how was that process for you?
Well, my husband was supportive about it, but he kept saying, like, I just don't know. I think it's going to be kind of weird. He's from Mexico, and, you know, hair is a big part of the Latin heritage, I guess, right? It's huge. And so he was kind of like, I don't know, like, you're going to wear a wig? I'm like, it's not really a wig. It's kind of a half wig, but I'm like, I'm just going to try it out. So he was like, I'll support you in it, but I don't know about it. Like, I don't know if I'm going to like it, but it's your hair. So the first one I bought, I actually didn't love at first. And I had to take it to my stylist a couple of times to really get it customized to the point where I really liked it. And my kids were like, that's your new hair? And now they're fine with it. It's funny. Sometimes they'll look at me and be like, are you wearing your wig? I'm like, how can you not tell? You know how people wear it. It looks completely different with a topper on, but they still sometimes second guess themselves. But my husband now at this point, he's like, no, I can see what a difference it's made in your confidence, how you feel about yourself. He's totally supportive at this point. They're expensive, so he's not always supportive of me getting a new one, but but as far as me wearing them, he's been really good about it. And it helps. It really helps to have that kind of support. But I just decided when I first got it, I'm just going to own it. I'm not going to like be so afraid that everyone's going to notice. If people say something about it, I'm going to be totally honest. In fact, I take it off for people all the time, and it's probably uncomfortable for them, but they'll be like, your hair's so cute. I'm like, really? It's a topper. You want to see? They're probably like, oh, stop it. But I just feel like
do that a lot too.
Yeah, like the more you own it, the more confidence you're going to feel, and the less awkward it's going to be telling people about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do relate to what you're saying. Of like, it can be awkward. I still have like faces in my head of the face that people made that were not expecting that. They're like, oh, okay,
yeah,
great, good for you. Like,
I know, they're like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. So ever since I kind of, I try to gauge for like where people are at. Are they ready to learn about this or not? Because, sometimes they're not, and they're just ambushed, like, surprise.
Yeah. And if they're like that, you can just be like, yeah, thanks. Like it's new. I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
It's
Which is
new.
not my
I got it
answer.
cut. It's
Yeah.
yeah, I think people make it more awkward than it needs to be. And the more normalized we make all of this, topper wearing, wig wearing, the more normal it becomes. I really tell people it's just like extensions. Like people
It
don't
is.
think twice about wearing extensions anymore. When they first came out, it was kind of weird. Everyone's like, that's not really your hair. You can't say it's your hair, but everyone wears extensions anymore. You're just putting extensions on top of your head. There's really no difference. Eyelash extensions, we all wear fake stuff. It's fine. It's no
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only that, but I do think that it's gonna be the new trend, right? Like when we go do our nails, we don't second guess. We just go do our nails.
Yeah.
And I think that wearing hair is like the next thing. It's already a thing though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's already a thing, but people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because all the Hollywood stars, like all actresses, models, everybody.
Yeah.
And that's my thought. It's like if they can do it, why can't we do it freely without feeling shame or guilt or feeling embarrassed about it?
Exactly.
Yeah, no. So okay, great. So I know that you're doing topper consultations now. So walk me through that process. Like, how do you support women choosing their topper?
So I kind of said when I was looking into this, I was just completely overwhelmed. There wasn't a lot of options back when I was looking, at least that I could find. And I just talking to people, especially on Instagram, I get messages all the time where they're like, what topper should I get? Which ones do you suggest? Which one's your favorite? And I was spending a lot of time trying to figure out what people needed because everyone's needs are different, right? So what works for me may not work for you. And so I had one of the girls was like, you should do a consultation service where you help people find a topper. I would totally be a client. And at the time I was like, I'm not ready to do that. I don't know enough about this, but, almost a year later, I was like, I think I've tried enough pieces from different places, different kinds and styles that I feel like I have something to offer that I could help women in this situation, make it a little less daunting. So what I do is, you can go to my website and you can set up an appointment, book an appointment for a consultation. It's a 30-minute Zoom call. And you fill out a questionnaire and send in some pictures of your bio hair and some inspiration hair pics. And then I kind of look that over before our Zoom call and I come up with some ideas, some pieces from some different companies that I like that I think will work for you. And then in the Zoom call, I'll kind of walk you through a little bit of the certain kind of cap construction that I think you'll like best, what size, what kind of hair, all these things that are all factors. I'll kind of walk you through that and then show you some of the pieces I found and kind of get a feel with what you like, what you don't like. And then after that, I write up this PDF document with some links, and I usually offer 3 links for 3 different pieces with a little bit of info about each piece and the company it comes from, the return policy, all that, so that it's all in one place. I offer a little synopsis of kind of what you're looking for in case you don't go with those 3 pieces. You'll have an idea like, okay, she said I probably will like a silk top. I'll probably like, this size of a cap, all those things. So you know what you're looking for. And also some links to some helpful videos for first-time topper owners to kind of help you know how to style it, care for it, all those things. So that's
Well
the
done.
service.
That's great. I mean, I never had that, so I think that is definitely a lot of support because it kind of like takes away the work of the research for us, right? Like
Yeah.
you will do it for us, and we kind of just choose, right?
Right.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay, cool. So actually, one lucky winner gets to have this consultation. So we're gonna let you guys know what the giveaway instructions are. That's gonna be here on the bottom of the page. But Lacie, before we go, I want you to share, I don't know, what has been like your biggest learning from having hair loss?
My favorite thing right now, the most fulfilling thing in my life, besides being like a mother and all of that, is seriously just talking to women about hair loss. Like doing these consultations has just filled this void in my soul. I don't know what it is. It's just knowing that like I wish I would have had that.
Yeah.
And knowing that we have so many of us have this thing in common and we know what it feels like. And to me, that's been the biggest thing coming out of this hair loss is the empathy and getting to, connect with other women. I think that's really, truly been so fulfilling for me. And everyone in my life will tell you, like, I don't shut up when it comes to hair and hair loss. I'll talk about it all day and they're like sick of it. So I love having the community that I can talk to about this. And it has really connected me in a way that I probably never would have found otherwise.
Oh my gosh, yes. And like you found yourself, and within that you found this amazing community. It's so beautiful. And I feel the same way. I did a video the other day and I said, if you're new to my page and you are not interested in hair loss, I don't know that you're gonna love it, because this is all I talk about.
Right?
So welcome to my page. This is all you're gonna find. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it really became my mission, my purpose to, transform society, I would like to say, because I feel like, yes, I'm here to support women with hair loss, but I'm also here to break the stigma so that future generations don't have to live what we went through, right? Like that's Absolutely. Really like my mission is twofold. It's like everybody gets to be part of this, because they think that it's up to us to change it, right? Like it's up to us to, if we don't start talking about it, especially what you share about the Latin culture, like I'm Hispanic, I'm originally from Colombia. And I mean, I lived through it, you know what I mean? Of not feeling feminine or beautiful or all that, because in our culture, it's almost like an obligation to have long, luscious, beautiful hair. It's kind of like, well, if you're a woman, you better look a certain way. And my country, I feel specifically, and this is really sad to say, but I feel, and especially there's like certain look of Colombian women, right? Like, oh, Colombian women look like this. And like, I felt like I had to live up to that. So imagine it was so harsh, and I would love to get rid of that. And that's, not happening in my family anymore. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. So if you get to change the culture. Yeah. By the way, so you are married to somebody that's Hispanic. So like, how are you guys managing that with your children? Like, what's your view on that?
I love it. I really think it's such a rich, beautiful diversity in our family that, my husband has all of his stuff that he adds, and I have all of my stuff that I add, and my kids are just so well-rounded. That's awesome. Like we speak both English and Spanish at home. We talk about different things that are celebrated in Mexico, and we don't always celebrate everything here, but they just have such a beautiful woven tapestry of culture in our home. And I really, really love it. Now, there are culture bumps, is what we like to call them, between my husband and I, where I'm like, I didn't grow up like that. And he's like, I didn't grow up like that. So that's been kind of hard. But for the most part, we've really been able to make it work. And, he's a special kind of man that I think I know that Hispanic men sometimes have this macho, stereotype. And while he is very macho, I won't say he's not, but he's just very humble, and he can learn how to, it doesn't always have to be his way, I guess is what I'm saying. So we've been able to compromise there, and it's been a really magical experience. Hard, but magical.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you, Lacie. We have spent almost 40 minutes chatting. So I love everything you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing. We are definitely given the giveaway instructions right here below. But is there any last piece of advice you want to share with us before we go?
Just that we all have insecurities, especially when it comes to hair loss. We always feel so alone. And I want to shout it from the rooftops. If you had any idea how many women statistically suffer from hair loss, you would be mind blown, because we don't talk about it. But I felt so alone. Nobody should have to feel alone. It's completely normal, and we just need to talk about it and move on and deal with it. And I'm so excited to do this consultation service. I hope whoever wins, I'm excited to work with you. And I hope that we can help you move forward in your hair loss too.
Awesome. And quick question, and speaking of that, is it only for toppers? Or if I'm looking for a wig, can I also participate?
So right now it's specifically human hair toppers. That's where I feel like I have my most expertise. In the future, I think I'll branch out and do other things, but right now it's just human hair toppers. Okay, cool. That's really important information. Okay, Lacie, well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We still have, so today is we have 2 more days to go.
So make sure to tune in, keep watching the interviews. We're gonna have a full replay that's gonna go through March 11th. So make sure to catch all the interviews if you're just joining us. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you in the next interview. Bye.
Thanks so much, Valerie.